Okay, so another technique you use when you're working with plastics is to scrape it with a really sharp razor blade. You got to be really careful that you don't gouge into it, so do take care of that. So the core, remember we had quite a lot of glue CA poking through there, so whilst just before it goes too hard, I thought I'd just give it a scrape to get the majority of the glue off. So I'm not trying to get it all the way down, I just want to try and get the majority of the glue off, and as you can see, it scrapes very nicely. Yeah, just be careful, because you know you don't want to be gouging into your wing and then having to sand out gouges or having to fill gouges. So just, you know, a little bit at a time. It's definitely the order of the day. I've actually finished parts just using scraping, the sort of scraping technique, because you can actually, I'll show you on the back here, you can actually get it down pretty quick once you so just taking wafers off. It's great for flat surfaces, you know, that's really smooth. You know, it's I don't think you could really sand it that smooth. And it works really well on flat surfaces with ABS. I haven't really tried it on PLA or any other, it wouldn't work with nylon, but with ABS you can see where I've smoothed it there and where it's still sanded. And that was only, what, a couple of minutes? So you've got like a smooth surface. So you can often go with the grain and then go against the grain, go across the grain. Yeah, it's lovely. I mean, that's really smooth. So you know, you can almost polish that up as it is. Still some scratching in there, but anyway, I digress. So yeah, so all I'm going to do is just carry on, just gently again, just trying to help myself out a little bit, like. But the last thing I want to do is take away material that needs to stay. So bare the leaf a little bit in there, and then sand it out. Then take, you know, then take too much out, and then have to try and fill it in sand. Because you don't really want to sand it too much, because you're losing the shape of your mould. Okay, that's as much as I'm going to do with that. With this one here, I've got some on there, so it can almost just, you know, I don't have to be too. Again, this is on the inside of the mould, so no one's ever see this once it's joined. So I can get most of that out. I can take some across there actually, where the gap is. Some glue on there. Okay, so this is about as much as I want to do with that. That joint's going to be really nice, probably. Right, so before I start working with the acetone, I want to fill these really dodgy bits that I've got here. My fault, not the printer's fault. But you know, if I can repair something, I will do, rather than reprint it. So what we'll do is, I should have actually tried to repair it first before joining it, and that way if it didn't work then I could still reuse the top bit. But yeah, I'm sure I can repair this. Suitable for our needs. So I'm going to use just this stuff. It's like a ultra lightweight sanding polystyrene filler. Poly filler, whatever. It's you know, the user for in the car building industry and painting, and you get all over the place. I think I got this stuff online. I wasn't expecting it to be such a big tub of it. It's a bit of a pain when I'm only mixing small portions, but seems to work well. They seem much too much really. This one seems to sound quite nicely, so I'll stick with it until it's all used up, or unless someone else can recommend something better. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'll fast forward again, speed up again. We'll get that filled and cleaned, and then we'll start the acetone. Right, so next on the list of things to do is to give its first coat of acetone. So I've got some acetone just poured into a jar, it's a pickle jar, and what you need to do is find yourself a nice fine brush. I think these are watercolour brushes for water painting. They're really fine. They are fairly expensive. I mean, this one here was £10, but they're brilliant. They really are. They make all the difference. I did start off using cheap paint brushes, you know, with really coarse bristles, and what you find is you can actually, it's quite easy to actually drag it in bristle marks actually into the plastic as you applying the acetone. So, you know, spend a little bit of money, get yourself a decent fine bristle brush, and they clean really easily in acetone, so they last. Well, the ones I've got at the moment are lasting really well. You know, it'll save you a lot of sanding later on. Okay, so what we'll need to do is I've got myself a brush. Let's move that out of the way. What we'll do is we'll dust out all the bits because we don't want to be acetoning in debris. Some more stuff to sand out later. And what I'll do is I'm going to apply the acetone to the whole part, so the back, the sides, everywhere. Two reasons for doing that. One, it strengthens everything. Okay, so it's going to strengthen all the ABS. It's going to like re-weld all the little joints. It'll smooth it to some extent. And the other reason, because technically you can say, well, why don't you just apply it to the one face? Well, what's going to happen is, imagine there's stress that's in this part due to the printing. So you got construction and expansion happening in there, and there's this built-in stress even from where I've glued it together and I've pushed it together. So if I were to just do the one face, then obviously all that tension's relaxed on that one face, and you can end up with it distorting. So I find to do the whole thing, yeah, at the same sort of time or around the same sort of time. It dries really quick, so that's not really too much of a problem. At times I've actually heard it actually creaking, you know, when I've been applying acetone, I can hear it creaking and everything's like moving. So I didn't actually realise why that was happening until I asked the question on RC groups, and I think it was Ryan who explained it to me in a lot more detail. But anyway, sorry, not RC groups, the 3D printing forum on Google Groups. So there's not much to it really. Start on the back. Again, it's the easy bit to it. If you make a mess up on here, it's not going to make any odds. And what you're aiming to do is just give it a good general cover. The acetone is going to absorb very quickly into the ABS. And the golden rule I've found is as soon as you feel the brush start to stick, move on. Yeah, so you apply it, you can brush it, you know, so you brush it away, get it as smooth as you can, you know, because you'll see ridges and whatnot appearing as you're brushing it. But if you start to feel the bristles starting to catch or stick a little bit, then it's time to move on, to load the brush up again and move on. So yeah, so we'll get started. So I'll just do this edge first. So you can see how quickly it just absorbs in there. It's just like, especially as this is the first time, the first application of the acetone. It's really absorbing in there, you know. See it just, hopefully you can see what's happening there. I'll just finish this corner and I'll zoom in a bit more for you. So, as you feel, if you feel it gets sticky, yeah, that means it's time to move on, yeah. So it's just getting sticky, that you can just see it dragging the marks, yeah. So all you're looking at is giving it a good, it's almost dry, it's almost formed the surface on it already. And you can see it building up on the edges and stuff. So, you know, obviously don't let it build up like as if you're painting, because you get the same sort of effect. You get like a run on the other side. So you know, a little bit of care needs to be taken when you're doing this. See if we do a bit more. That's all in focus. So going on this edge now. It's amazing how quickly it soaks it up, especially on this first application. Okay. So you're not looking to putting tons and tons of it on. You don't want it like soggy, wet. You're just looking at giving it a coat. Yeah. There's a couple of other benefits of doing it this method. And when we come to sanding, starting the sandings of runs, you'll be able to see how the actual shiny surface actually helps you see where you've sanded and where you haven't sanded. Okay, slightly sticky, leave it. Yeah, lets you see where you've sanded and where you haven't sanded, and that's really beneficial. You know, when mould makers or plug makers, that sometimes they'll actually spray their paths or their patterns in a primer. It's more of a sacrificial primer, and what that really helps them do is actually see where they need to sand, where the high points are and where the low points are. Because if you don't know what you're sanding, where you're sanding, then it's very difficult to actually get a decent surface. And that's also why I like the grey colour as well. It's quite a neutral colour. If you work in white, then you know, chances are you look at that and think, oh, that's an amazing surface, it looks wonderful. You know what I mean? But it's not. It's just the colour reflecting back, is hiding all the defects in the part. I think black's quite a good colour. I know spray painters used to say that black was the worst colour to spray paint because it's so difficult to get a really good finish, because it shows up every defect. Okay, I'll start doing the back now. Try to be quite sort of methodical and do like one little patch at a time. You don't want to be going all over the shop. Try and get one little bit done and then move on to another little bit. So just do this little triangle over here. Because you're not going to get a nice finish, looking finish, doing it like this with a paintbrush. Well, it's very difficult to get a nice looking finish doing it with a paintbrush. Because it's not going to be uniform. If we were acetoning this, doing an acetone vapor bath, you get a perfectly uniform finish, and it looks great. I think that's one of the really nice things about doing an acetone bath. It's very, very uniform. And obviously when we hand brushing this on, we're sticking a lot more on that would probably go on with an acetone bath, vapor bath. I mean, early on when I was doing first started doing the printed rotors, a little 30mm diameter printed rotors, I was actually getting the rotors and actually dunking it straight into the acetone, and that was, I mean, it worked, but it wasn't ideal because they're quite delicate, and if you're like half a second too long in there, you know, things start to go soggy and floppy, and you know, since then either with the rotors I either vapor bath them or just carefully brush them. So that's what we've done on all the outside. As you can see, it's touch dry now. Even that bit that I've just done, a little bit tacky, that's in there, touch dry. Now for the important part, which is the mould surface. Again, try and be quite thorough. Really soaking it up tonight. Obviously you want to do this in a well ventilated area. Hopefully that's It's common sense for anyone trying this out. I like to really try and chuck it in these corners, so they don't print particularly well, as you saw in the one we had to repair earlier. So what this does is going to help actually form a little bit of a fillet in the corner. That is going to help when we pulling the foam cast out. Because on the actual CAD model, a lot of the time I didn't actually put any fillets on things, because I knew after I'd done the finishing work on it, the chances are, you know, just the process would put the fillets in there. So hi Van. It's Vanessa. Right, so making sure we get in all the nooks and crannies. This first coat really soaks up the acetone, as you'd expect. So put a little bit more down the centre there. It's really easy to try. It's really easy to overwork it. So you know, don't. That's one of those things. Is it's better to have too little on there than too much. A good indication if you overwork it is it starts to cloud the surface a little bit. You can see you've got like a white cloudy surface on there, where I've probably been a little bit too precious with that rather than just slinging on. So it's one of those things you just takes experience really, I think. As you can see, the really fine bristles really help keep a really fine coat, because we've got enough things to sand out. Enough you can really see I mean, it really shows up the high points, the low points. This is printed at 0.1 millimeters, so it just goes to show, you know, although it looks actually good, as soon as you put something shiny on a surface, it really does show up all the defects. Which is great in this instance, because like I say, it really helps us when we're sanding it, because we'll know where to sand, where needs sanding and where's okay. Okay, so that's the first bit done. It doesn't look very pretty, but it's from a sort of technical point of view, it's gone really well. It's perfect. That seam's going to be lovely. That seam is going to be, that joint's going to be lovely. Okay, so we'll let that go off. It'll only take, I don't know, you can leave that for, I don't know, probably about half an hour, and you'd be able to rework and start the sanding. One thing you don't want to do, right, is don't put this in under a light or in a hot environment or in any kind of oven or anything, because what will happen is while the plastic's still soft, if the air inside there actually expands due to the heat, you end up with horrible little bubbles forming everywhere. Because I've fallen into that trap where I've got a bit of a little hot box, and I thought, I'll just speed it up, I'll just sling it in the hot box, get it all cured nicely. And I came back an hour later and there's like bubbles everywhere, and basically all that's happened is just physics really. All the little pockets of air have expanded due to the heat and formed little bubbles on the surface. So you know, just let it dry in the ambient air, dissolve dry. Yeah, that seems to work best for me at the moment. Right, so that's that one there done. Earlier you saw me fill the really dodgy areas. So what I'm going to do is, before I start applying acetone to this bit of the core part of the mould, I'm just going to sand as much of that out and get as near as smooth as I can, and then I'll make a start on that. And I actually apply the acetone a little bit different on this part of the mould, and I'll explain why when I come to that.